One of my very first projects I used to learn about how radios operate, software-defined radio, doing some hardware hacking, and doing a little basic Linux server was actually with plane spotting. What plane spotting is using the publicly available information that planes are broadcasting out to track where they are by using either the UAT or ADSB system that they may be equipped with. Planes that are below 18,000 feet may use the UAT system at 978 megahertz, that stands for Universal Access Transceiver. Now, planes that operate above 18,000 feet must have an ADSB system, and that is at 1,090 megahertz. So there are two separate systems, and you don't have to have both. It's a case of, according to some of my pilot friends, many people that fly below 18,000 feet may just install an ADSB system because of the labor costs in there, and you may as well just install it, although from what they told me it's about $5,000 for a UAT system versus $10,000 for an ADSB, but I digress. This is a system that is used internationally to track planes all across the world. So if you've ever wondered when you go to the airport, how do they know how far behind that plane is, or if it's on time or anything like that? It's ADSB. That is what we're doing. And this right here is an ADSB receiver. This is actually the DEFCON 32 Aerospace Village Badge. This is actually a radar scope built in so that we can actually track planes using ADSB. This does not have a UAT receiver. That is a hardware limitation. I will eventually be making some content talking about how we're going to make a better ADSB and UAT tracking system, but that's not this video. We're going to give this the center stage. So you can go on sites like flightaware.com and be able to see all this kind of information at any given time. And how these sites work is they're crowdsourcing it from a lot of enthusiasts that are tracking all these planes and sending it out. And if you're wondering how easy is it to track a lot of these planes, well, this device over here, when I attached this little dinky $10 antenna and I soldered in the SMA connector, was able to get to about 75 miles at the furthest point that I saw. But on average, I can get about 50 miles with a, sticking outside and having a good day. Now, I have friends of mine that are also into this hobby, and they have actually set up systems in their attic and such, and I have seen that they are actually able to cover 200 or more miles. There's a lot you can do, as we will talk about in another video, to get a really nice system. My buddy has a system that covers not only this state, but a little bit of the next states as well. It's really cool, fun hobby. Let's take a minute here to make sure that you hit the like button, subscribe to see more of my content, and we're going to talk about my amazing sponsor, you. My lovely community. None of this could happen without any of you. So whether you're supporting me through the merch that you've bought in the store, like these tumblers, the t-shirts, the stickers, or the desk mats, or many other things we're working on creating, like possibly like some wine tumblers, as well as pet accessories, or you just subscribe on Twitch or Patreon, tip me on Stream Elements, give me biddies on Twitch, or the upcoming YouTube memberships, or just stick around and watch my videos regularly, I could not have this happen without any of you. Your support is what helps benefit this channel so we can improve the quality of the content that we cover, as well as pay for the hardware and things so that I can cover more different content for all of you. None of this could happen without you, my loving community. Make sure to also follow me on all of my other social medias, as well as join the Discord. I couldn't have this happen without any of all of you, and I am forever grateful. The cool thing about when it comes to plane spotting is you really don't need to sink a lot of money into this, although you can easily if you really want to. And you don't need a lot of high-end sophisticated hardware. This entire badge right here costs about 160 bucks. This is probably on the higher end of things because it's a self-contained unit with an 18650 battery, a dual-core CPU, 128 megabytes of RAM, eMMC, and of course, it's a custom design with a nice screen and everything. This even has a Game Boy emulator as well. You can use a basic Raspberry Pi. You can use a spare Windows machine. This is very easy to do with a lot of different open source softwares out there. And all you really need to do plane spotting yourself is a software-defined radio that is capable of operating at either 978 MHz or 1090 MHz, as well as an antenna that is properly tuned to that. I will make sure to drop some links below, but as you'll see, they're generally anywhere from the $30 to $50 range, depending on all the features you want, and of course it can go up from there depending on what kind of antenna do you want to add some additional filtration, and so on and so forth. Just like any hobby, it can get as expensive as you want it to. So while we will be talking about ADSB and UAT systems that you can build yourself in another video, this is all about the DEFCON 32 Aerospace Village Badge. This was a limited badge that I was really dying to get after getting my Aerospace Village last year, because I love the aerospace industry. If I didn't mention before, I like plane spotting and things like that. I didn't even know that this was going to be an ADSB receiver until I was actually at the con. Now, the problem was that there was not enough supply and there was assembly issues that they believe they only were able to release about 100 devices, and that was on the Sunday, the final day of DEF CON, and I was not about to wait in line for an entire day for the opportunity to get a badge, especially when they announced that they would be selling them later online. There was supposed to be a CTF for this entire thing, but they unfortunately had to scrap it because there were not enough devices out there. So sure enough, I sat and waited and had my notifications on for Twitter/X on a dummy account I created just so the Aerospace Village would alert me, which I'm gonna have a whole other video on the enshittification of Twitter/X, because I got alerts for so many other things that I didn't even want nor need. And of course, I was in their Discord, and when they finally announced it a few days ago, I placed my order and I finally got it. It's a pretty powerful device for what it is, and like I mentioned, it can do Game Boy emulation. So let's go over the specs of this single board computer. It has built-in Wi-Fi, GPS, dual-core processor, 128 megabytes of DDR3 RAM, 8 gigabytes of eMMC storage, and if you want to hack it, it's able to be connected with SSH or plug in a keyboard to the USB port and open up a terminal. It even has a micro SD slot so you can load up whatever you want. It is a fully Linux device. It has a fully integrated ADSB receiver with onboard PCB antenna, and the antenna in here is good for about 5 miles. Now, I will note that when you want to get a GPS lock, you tend to want to actually face it upside down and have it go towards the sky so that you get your initial lock. Otherwise, well, it just didn't work. Now, while having it upside down will get a GPS lock a lot faster, you can, of course, have it face up as long as you're like outside or maybe in your car, like when I was driving around testing this out, and it will eventually get a lock. It will take a few minutes, but it will work, and it is actually pretty accurate and manages to update pretty fast considering what's in this device. Not only that, you can actually expose the dump 1090 data to the network over Wi-Fi or USB Ethernet. So you can actually have this data send over, and if you want, then read it on another machine. I'm not probably going to be doing that with this. I'll do that with a different device. This is just more for me to go around and have fun and track different planes. Now, the badge does come with an 18650 battery, very similar to a lot of your vape devices for those of you that are part of the Vape Nation. But you can also, optionally, as I saw someone do in the Aerospace Village Discord, desolder the entire battery holder and then put on, I believe it was either a lithium ion or lithium polymer pack. And this has USB-C PD for the charging built in, and it charges pretty nicely, and the battery seems to hold its charge pretty well considering all the things that it's doing. Overall, the design and aesthetic of this badge is really nice. They hit it out of the park. It has some Japanese writing over here. I don't know what it's saying over there, but if anyone wants to translate for me, please. It's also got this battery indicator down here, the GPIO for UART, GNSS, and other things. The button buttons are extremely clicky as well and satisfying. The dial, the same, very nice quality, great quality screen, and the screen holder itself looks like it's 3D printed. It already came pre-assembled that way. Now, I did have to solder on a couple of components, because out the box, just like last year, if you want to put your shitty add-on, you have to put your shitty add-on connector. And that's what they're actually called. Some people call them simple add-ons, we call them shitty add-ons. But anyway, so we have the ability to add all these different SAOs. I also soldered on this SMA connector. Not the best solder job I've probably ever done. I'm not a big soldering guy, but I at least know how to solder, albeit not that well. If you look at the connector on the back, the job is a lot better, but I will get a close-up to show you my shoddy job, where I also had to do some micro soldering because at the C114 connection, I had to resolder a piece on there, which was a tiny capacitor, which was an 0402 capacitor of 100 picofarads. That is so tiny, it's smaller than a grain of rice. That is the one complaint I have to say about this design, was they should have actually moved the capacitor probably further along the trace, so that way you couldn't accidentally desolder it while soldering on the SMA connector, because several other people have also accidentally knocked that piece off. I don't know if it happened during shipping or during the soldering. Either way, I know it wasn't there, and it's a tiny, tiny, tiny capacitor. It's one of the smallest pieces of hardware I have ever dealt with, that I bought a strip of like 30 of them, and I dropped 4, and I am probably never going to find them unless I become part of Honey, I Shrunk My Kids. Back to the design of this board, there's also a fun few Easter eggs in here as well. You have an upside down plane saying "because I was inverted," and you also have the line from Airplane, "I am serious and don't call me Shirley." The overall design of the board is fascinating, and they even made an entire speech talking about how they designed this board, which I definitely recommend checking out. The entire schematics and software for Winglet OS, which this is running, is also on their GitHub and open sourced. They are still offering updates and trying to improve the software a little bit better. But it is fascinating to look at this entire design and see how they cram things in. I know I have several of my friends that are also in the plane spotting hobby that are a little bit jealous of me because this is a really nice piece of hardware. Not only does this device do ADSB, it also can do I2C, UART, and CAN bus, as well as many more things. Now that we've talked a lot about this badge, let's actually go out into the field and show it being used. That's right, we're gonna go and touch grass, people. So I have driven about 45 minutes all the way to the airport. As you can see, there's a jet coming in right behind me, just so that I can show you how this badge works. And basically, here we have the Aerospace Village Badge, which I've of course 3D printed a case for since I originally recorded the video. And right now it is tracking planes. I did turn it on before this video started, and it does have a GPS receiver, as you can see, but the data is stale, so I manually punched in the latitude and longitude for the airport, and you can see it has about a 5-mile radius. Unfortunately, none of those right now with the antenna are giving me a lot of information, so I can't plot them on the radar. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to install the antenna that I brought with me and show you how far the range goes. It can give me about a 5-mile range from what I've noticed built into the device, but we can extend that much, much further and get a lot better resolution with an external antenna. And here we have a little $10 ADSB antenna. This is a dual frequency antenna for both 978 megahertz as well as 1090 megahertz. But obviously, since the badge can only do 1090, that's all we're going to need it for with a regular SMA connector. We do need to go into the badge I/O options and enable external ADSB antenna so that it will be able to work with this. And now, as we can see, with just a simple $10 antenna, look at the difference there and how many planes we are able to see. And now we can actually switch over to the radar screen. So if we press the B button, I think it is, and then we go to the radar scope, now we can start plotting our planes. And this can get some pretty good distance. So as we can see, I've been able to go from a 5-mile radius with very low resolution all the way up to close to about 100 miles. I'd say that's close to 80 miles right now of what planes were able to plot from that flight list. So this is the beauty of the Aerospace Village Badge from DEFCON 32, and you can see how easy it is to plot planes very far and away with simply an SDR and a Raspberry Pi, as we will cover in some upcoming content. I don't know how often you're going to see me out in the wild making content, but this is probably one of the few times where we need to go outside to show the beauty of how this works, because obviously the badge with the built-in ADSB antenna is only going to be able to work within a few miles, so it's best to be at the airport with that or physically on the plane, whereas with this tiny little antenna, as we can see here, we managed to extend that range to almost 80 miles or so. And with an even bigger antenna in a setup we will showcase in a little while, which I will be making content separately for that, we can then show how you can cover range of 150 miles or more. Anyway, let's get back to the lab. Overall, the Aerospace Village DEFCON 32 badge is my #1 all-time favorite DEFCON badge that I've been able to acquire thus far, and that is for a multitude of reasons. One, artistically speaking, it is just beautiful. Technologically speaking, it is beautiful as well. Just how did they manage to cram all of this technology into one portable form factor, with my only complaint being the having to micro solder the tiny capacitor that I had mentioned earlier, and that is something they kind of admit based on when I was talking to them in Discord. Probably should have moved further down the traces, but overall, in the grand scheme of things, not very big of an issue. But my main reason why I love this badge is that it has reignited and rekindled my love and passion for plane spotting, which was one of my earliest hobbies, and I plan to eventually get back into making a ground station that can actually do UAT, ADSB, and possibly even satellite telemetry, so we can do some really amazing things, and I hope to cover that in the future. I also had the privilege of taking this overseas with me recently when I went to Web Summit in Lisbon, Portugal. I'll be talking about that event entirely in its own separate video, but it was awesome to be able to do plane spotting while on a plane. And yes, I did get some funny looks while I was using this, because it does kind of look sketch if you don't know what you're talking about and you see just a little radar screen pop up. But when I mentioned to the flight attendants that no, this is just for plane spotting, it's an ADSB transponder, they actually turned from worry into intrigued about what this was going and doing, and I got to show it off, and everyone that I walked around and showed this to was really intrigued about the device themselves, and it's a fun toy to really use and actually discover different planes and what they may be doing if you're into that hobby, and if you're not, it's definitely something worthwhile checking out, and we will have separate content about that. It is definitely #1 in the top 5 of all badges, and I've got my top 5 right here just so you can see. I've had a whole separate video on my badges if you're interested, but this is the DEFCON 32 entry badge. This is the DC 540 Chakra badge. I've worn this on stream quite often, so if you go on Twitch once in a while, you may see me wear it. I may put it on if people ask. This is the Aerospace Village badge from last year, not the propeller one. This is the other one that you can have an SAO over here, your little shitty add-on, or there's Musk and one of the Wright brothers over here, and then of course we have the Tor Foundation's lie detector badge. I don't have the leads right now, but basically you can attach it to your fingers, and then based on physical responses, it can be a potential lie detector. So overall, you get some really fun badges and ideas and things that can be hacked with while you're at DEF CON. And that is why I love this badge, is it really embodies that spirit. Plus, as someone who loves planes and spotting them, this is just amazing to have in my hands, because now I can do plane spotting on the go. But until next time, stay safe out there and happy hacking.